Okay. Okay. So hello, everyone, and welcome. And as you can see, I have a friend with me. I know you're probably saying, thank God she has somebody else with her to get through these videos. This is my friend, Eve. Say hello, Eve. And as I mentioned in my previous video, this may be the start of a new project, doing interviews. It may be the start of a new project. We shall see. We'll see how a few go, whether I like it, whether I feel good about them, and perhaps what your response is to them. Anyway, Eve has graciously volunteered to be my first guest or victim. I guess that will be decided at the end of the interview. So I'm so grateful for you being here, Eve. I'm nervous. Eve is fine, but I'm a total wreck. But anyway, I wanted to share Eve's story. Eve is a friend of mine. I met her, well, maybe just about a year ago. And she has a very interesting story, a vastly different story from mine. Just in brief, which you'll hear more about later. She is a mother of 4. I mean, to me, she looks like she's 20. Mother of 4, married, world traveler, works, cares for the home, children, and a dog, and all while being this busy, incredible householder. She has taken the time to discover who she is, what she is, and to have this busy of a life, to me, it takes incredible strength, drive, and motivation. So maybe some of you can relate out there instead of listening to stories of these teachers who are, have a perfect, no responsibility life, and they're out there having fun, teaching, traveling the world. But so maybe you can relate with Eve's story a little bit more. You can relate to some of the struggles and perhaps find some inspiration, which I'm sure you will. And the whole point of these upcoming videos is to emphasize that the spiritual journey is more about living a completely normal life. It's not about writing books and becoming a well-known teacher or guru. It's about how we learn to incorporate our new perceptions, our new learnings, our new discoveries into our everyday life, while not taking on the spiritual image of, oh, now I'm spiritual and I've got to tell everybody about it, just being an ordinary person. So with that said, there's nothing ordinary about Eve. And I thought it would be fun for these interviews. Well, we're going to have a conversation, like we're totally going to be as free-flowing as possible. But I also thought it would be fun to ask some kind of questions. And the first question I thought to ask was, if you were to write a book, what would be the title of your book? A book about your life, what would be the title? Because that kind of gives you a little thematic look into how the person perhaps perceives life or the attitude. Anyway, so Eve, what is the title of your life book?
It was a good question. I definitely had to sit with it, and you want to come up with something really smart and cool. Yeah. And I decided that the best book to describe my life, it was the name of a new kind of tribe that I've set up, which is Tuning, Art, and Innocence.
Nice.
Because those 3 things feel like tuning, art, and innocence encompasses the shift, the tipping point for me, from struggling to kind of actually starting to settle into being and resting in ordinary life. Yeah.
And this tuning into, you said tuning into art and life. Is that, yeah.
Innocence. Yeah.
Innocence.
Mm.
Um, yeah. And I think we'll figure out why you're saying tuning in to life and innocence, because it's in response to early life experiences. And so with that, tell us about a little bit briefly about whatever's relevant of your growing up, you know, whatever sparked you to begin this search. You know, what, yeah, what was your life like, and what was the trigger that put you on this path?
Well, the biggest trigger, like, was falling out with friends. That was the tipping point. You know, I mean, I was already, you know, I had a nice life. I had the 4 kids, I had the husband, I had the car. You know, we'd emigrated to Australia.
But
And
how about, let's go back, how about further, like early childhood? You just your family life, how did that play a role in you?
I was deeply unconscious, so I couldn't really. I mean, you know, in the Bible, it tells you about how Adam fell asleep, but there's no account of him ever waking up. That was me, like eternally, you know, fast asleep, trotting along, creating chaos wherever I went, completely unaware of how I was contributing to the problems in my life. I definitely had instinct to leave England. That was probably a major shift, like a decision to take my 2 boys, my husband, and step off into the horizon with no support, no family. I was pregnant with our 3rd child. Wow. But there was a real, it was just a knowing, leave the environment that is keeping you imprisoned in, you know, in this life. So moving away from the constructs of my thinking was probably the biggest shift. But when I got to Australia and I started to recreate a new life for myself, what I soon discovered, that I was creating the same problems in my relationships with women again. That
you lost before. Yeah. Oh, so all these fallouts were with women?
Mainly with women. Yeah. You know, I have a complicated relationship. You know, I guess I have my mummy wounds that I mentioned to you a few days ago. So, you know, I struggled. I kind of, but then that was, you know, kind of causing havoc for my children as well. You know, so it was just building up to the perfect storm. And then when I once again created a bit of a drama, I was involved in, you know, childhood politics, playgrounds, you know, Desperate Housewives. You know, we were all playing our part. I was most definitely right in the middle of it, and everything blew up in my face. But as fate would have it, I ended up at this particular weekend completely broken, the wound just, and I ended up sitting in a gompa, which is a Buddhist meditation, like a temple. It was a complete coincidence. We'd planned a weekend away. It was over Easter back in 2014, I think. And it was the first time I was ready to I heard the noble truths, the 4 noble truths, learning about suffering and the truth of it, and that there was a way out, and I started to pay attention. I realized that I could do something different. So I went on a very, very deep, immersed transition. Like, it was like a fast track learning. I don't think I ever failed to have headphones in my ears solidly for the next 8 years. I literally was just listening to wisdom every minute of every day, like while I was taking care of the children. Like, I wasn't very present, but to be honest, it was safer for them.
Yeah.
where I was at to where, you know, I was like unconscious and not present. At least I was learning to be conscious but still not present, you know. So
Right. At least you weren't, your frequency wasn't.
yeah.
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 Yeah. So as I was making dinner, as I was changing nappies, as I was driving in the car, it was just constantly the teachings of the Buddha just blaring out of like.
Yeah, but you know, you've got to imagine that blaring out, it's going into you, of course, but it's going into your field, and probably
Yeah.
they're sucking it up as well.
Yeah. Well, we started to make massive changes. I mean, it just, you know, but it was a very slow process, you know. It took time. It took a lot of time to rewrite the program, to start breaking down the mental constructs. But you know, the Buddha is he's a psychologist. I mean, that's what he was. He understood the mind, and he understood how to correct it. So I found brilliant teachers all on YouTube. I mean, it was just, it's incredible, the information. It's for free. If you know, we didn't have a lot of money, and I managed to just find everything I could and start changing my life. Yeah.
And the teachings that you were being immersed in, do you remember one particular thing, or that one thing that probably you still use today that helps you to, you know, detach, like say you're having a thought or a thing, you know, was it like self-inquiry? Was it a particular technique, or just something the Buddha said that?
Well, to be honest, it got to the point where I exhausted the Buddha, and I knew it was time to move on. And that, you know, that was really hard. Like I traveled with a friend, and she couldn't understand, like, you know, why are you seeking? And my husband was a bit like, why are you moving on again? You know, but this was, I had a lot of like catching up to do. You know, I wasn't given an education. You know, my parents didn't know any better. My society didn't know any better. My culture didn't know any better. I also married an Indian man. So his family were deeply religious. They're devout Sikhs, and Guru Nanak's teachings also made a huge impact on me. I spent a big chunk of my time learning about that. I then accidentally stumbled across some brilliant teachers of the Christ transmission through the lens of Aramaic scholars.
Wow.
And then I kind of stumbled, and I did all the kind of new age, Eckhart Tolle, Abraham Hicks. So there's nothing really that stood out other than it was up to me. That was it. It was all in my hands, and I was completely motivated because I was a mother of 4 children, and there was no choice.
It kind of feels like to me, and I could be completely wrong, but it feels like all the wisdom from the Buddha was perhaps laying a foundational information, you know, learning about the ego and the mind and all the working. So that's information. And then you were totally soaked with information. And then you moved on to this Aramaic Christ teaching, which then involves the heart, and it's a very devotional. So I think that's a beautiful transition. And then you come into a more feeling your way into all of this. And then of course, all the new age stuff, which is brilliant because it all fits together.
And then probably one of the biggest, there was 2 other major like life-changing things. One was participating in a 40-day fast.
Yeah, that's right. That's still amazing to me. That totally. Yeah, please share, because that's an amazing. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you know, the thing is that the fast was the easy bit. It was the integration of breaking the fast that like opened up a can of worms. All my eating disorders from a teenage self, like body self-conscious, everything kind of like came back up to the surface. I then ended up having another interaction with the group of girls I went to high school with. That exploded in my face again, so it just brought up so many core wounds. And then about a year after the fast, I'd sort of prepared my body. There was just a series of synchronicities that found me on a plane to Peru, where I got to spend a week in the jungle and had an experience with some plant medicine. And because I was so prepared, like I wouldn't, you know, ayahuasca is quite a potent teacher.
Yeah.
And if you've got trauma, you know, and you're ready just to kind of like rip off the band-aid, you know, great, you know, you'll cry and vomit in a bucket, and, you know, you'll have it coming out of both ends, and you'll face your darkest parts. But if you've done the work before, you can go and have a really interesting experience. And I was blessed enough to kind of have that, the ripping off of the veil. I mean, she absolutely, as a teacher, just something changed. So I had some kind of shift.
You have to tell us all about it. Yeah, we want to hear, what was your experience, you know, and I want to know afterwards, yeah, how did that experience change your perception of reality? You know, how do you see life now? Has something changed? Yeah.
I got to peek behind the veil, you know, and
what does that mean? What does that mean? Tell us.
that it's all an illusion. It's all a freaking cosmic joke. I mean,
how did that present itself to you in visual form?
You know what I really tuned into was the deep essence of forgiveness. Actually, it was a real understanding that I'm responsible, but yet at a much higher level, I'm not responsible. Everything is kind of happening to me, and
or through you, because
exactly,
yeah, to you sounds like you're
it's running through me, and and I am just a tool. And the more awareness I bring, the more of a useful tool I can be. Sharpened, like, you know, sharpen the knife, and, you know, it will be more useful. And
I hold that thought, and I know people are probably thinking, oh, she keeps interrupting, but I want to go back to that point that is really important for people to hear about, I don't want to lose my train of thought, about you not being so in control as you think you are, that you are just really that Brahman is really more the charioteer of your life than you know. In fact, you know, you think you have all these choices and you're doing all these things, but you're really not. So this integration of forgiveness that you felt is really important. I just want people to realize, no matter what they do, no matter what mistakes they make, no matter what shadow they're functioning, whatever, you're really not in control, and you've got to let go of the self-guilt.
Yeah. Because it was like the best way to describe it was like, I went through a death. I died, you know, I died there. A piece of myself died there. And it felt like going through a death process, because as the medicine initially, it's all very trippy. Oh, look at the mandalas on the floor. Look at the green. Oh, everything's so sparkly. But then suddenly the ascension starts, and the frequency starts to rise and rise and rise, and it feels very turbulent. You know, imagine going up into outer space, and the rocket as it penetrate, and it was like blah, 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 blah. I was like,
the sound barrier.
I can't do this. And I was like, I can't do this for like hours. Because by this point I'd left the safety of the group, and I'd gone back to my own space. So I had a very on my own journey, and there was a moment where I started to panic, you know, like, oh my God, I'm on my own. But I managed to somehow, you know, just anchor myself and have this experience. And there were it was like dying. I can imagine it's what it's like to feel the dying process, because I was shown lots of dark images, and I just heard a voice saying, keep looking, don't turn away, you know, just stare it down. And as these images of these very, you know, dark kind of but suddenly the mask was revealed, and then there was beauty underneath it was like veils. It was like I was traveling through different dimensions, and then it was like reaching the gates of heaven. And it was like this whole, oh my God, I'm literally crying.
I know, I'm getting chills. It's
I
awesome.
was like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for everything. And I did. And it was just like, sweet child, do you think that that was any, like, you know, you're not that powerful, sweetheart. Like, seriously, relax. It wasn't you.
You should see what they're doing on this planet. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. But it was so real. I mean, I felt it like it, because it was so real within a cellular, like it was an instant, like relaxing, a cellular, oh, okay, you know, it's not all me. It's happening through me. Thank you for and the innocence returned, you know, the innocence of me. But the biggest, you know, and I remember when it was all, when the medicine was wearing off, and I was like, I don't want to leave this state because I'll forget again. You know, I'm going to forget, I'm going to go back. And it was, and I think I remember asking, like, what do you want me to do? What should I do? And it was like, you don't need to do anything. So like, just have some fun. You know, it will happen through you. You've got nothing to do.
Yeah.
And then I went into this kind of crazy, when I returned to my group, I just couldn't stop laughing. I was just like, it was so comical to me how serious we take everything. But I mean, I still fall into this trap. You know, that was a moment in time when you have these, it's the integration. That's the hardest part of any spiritual practice. You know, you have all these, you know, euphoric experience, fasting, blah, 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 but the integration, that, and bringing that into living,
takes a lifetime. Absolutely.
That's the bit where people give up. They fed up. They want, because they want those high, you know, all the fancy stuff all the time. And then they return to Peru. They need another hit. They need to, and I, you know, and I felt that I want to go back, you know, but I know that I won't be invited back until I've kind of made most of the steps myself, because it's very easy to become lost in yet another system, and eventually you got to let them all go. And you know, she showed the door opened, but now it's, well, I got the key, but now I have to turn it, you know.
And you keep saying she, so did you feel a definite feminine divine mother presence?
And ayahuasca is very feminine in nature. I mean, I worked with another plant medicine, San Pedro, as well. That's known as more masculine, but that was a very deep experience.
Is that like a drink or a smoke?
Cactus. It's a type of cactus. Yeah.
Okay. And how does as far as feeling experience wise, how does that differ from, do you throw up and
it depends on how the purity of how much trauma you've released, and especially if you're still holding it in the body, I believe. But ayahuasca is just, there's no, it will just, if whatever you're freaking terrified of, it's like, get ready to look at it, you know.
And that was the key thing when she was telling you, just look at it, stare it down. I mean, just let go of all teachings. And whenever your shit comes up, whenever you're afraid, what do? Look at it, let it in.
Let it
you. And you went through it, meaning you let it become you. You let it, and then it opens into heaven. And that's like the greatest teaching.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And then there's just a relief. It's like having a good poo. So you just let it out, and then it's like, it's all, now I can relax.
Thank you for that. But I know exactly what I know. Anyway, we all know that feeling, but you know. You mentioned, I don't know if you want to go there now, but you did mention some systems, and if you wish to talk about systems that you feel are incredibly helpful, or books or anything in particular, please share those in case other people are interested in them. That's totally up to you.
I mean, I'm a big advocate for plant medicine. If you need it, I don't recommend it. Like all systems, don't become dependent on any system. I love the gene keys. I love.
And if you need it, what do you mean? If you need it, do people really need it? I think I'm a little on the fence about, I think they're very beneficial, once or twice.
Yeah.
But not as a way, I think as a way of healing. They're for healing and not for, man, I want to go in there and have an experience. That's totally the wrong, for me, I would love to do it as a healing. Say I have something that I know is so stuck that I can't quite seem to know. And I want to go in there with an intention of, will you please just show me what I'm missing? Because
no, you're right. You're absolutely right. It is true, because there's just blind spots for all of us. And some of these systems like plant medicine is just something that can just reach those sore spots that you just when you're trying to scratch your back and you just
exactly exactly. So as a method for healing, not exactly as a trip, you don't want to use you don't want to use them as an amusement or a theme park.
No, because then you're going to create really bad negative karma, and you're playing in realms that you just don't want to go into, because there's retribution. You owe something. You create a karmic relationship with ayahuasca, and then you don't really want to do that. You want to keep everything really clean.
I totally agree. Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Well, I did mean to interrupt.
Sorry. No, it's good.
Here's just a little side note. I am an active listener, or I just don't sit there sitting stone faced like the Buddha. I can't stand that. I've got to interrupt and interact. So I'm an interactive listener. So sorry.
I love it.
All right.
It resonates with me because it's clarifying as well, because we want to make sure that that we're clarifying what I'm said, and I don't want to mislead anyone in terms of what was helpful for me without establishing how I used it. So I'm grateful for you clearing that. No,
anyway, sorry.
No, it's perfect. Look, for me, junior school level in any person's spirituality, I'm an advocate of the Buddha, Christ, and the Hermetic teaching. For me, they're the foundational teachings. I think they should be taught at junior school to children. I'm not even kidding. I mean, for me, that this is such living on earth 101. If you could teach these teachings at a very, we don't even have to you don't want to go down the rabbit hole with these systems.
And what do you describe a little bit what you mean by the Hermetic teachings?
Well, the idea of white magic, how manifestation tools, basically, but in alignment with the highest, white magic, not black magic, very different.
Right. And I think, just a little sidetrack, I think New Age attempts to get there, but they don't suss it out, if that's the right word. Ego motivation manifestation versus true self and true inspiration and how to work with the cosmos. It's more like forceful rather than, So I totally agree with you, those teachings. Yeah.
What is that book called? I can't remember. Oh, crumbs.
The Secret?
Yes, The Secret.
Yeah.
The Secret is a prime example of that, because actually The Secret was all based on Abraham Hicks. Yeah. So Abraham Hicks were followed around, and then at the last minute they pulled out all the source consciousness aspect of it, because they wanted to appeal to the masses.
I didn't realize that.
Everything by Jerry and Esther, and then it became an ego-driven manifestation trip rather than going for the highest, which
I
heartbreaking for them, I think.
In the beginning, it was very much, I didn't realize that. But however, to their credit, Abraham Hicks is I can't even remember when I started Law of Attraction, but it's like the beginning of someone's journey.
It's a great beginning. Great beginning.
Great. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. And, and actually most spirituals, even Buddhism has those three teachings. You've got the Hinayana teachings, which is kind of like the basic of the Buddha. And then you've got the Mahayana teachings, which is like the Christ consciousness. And then the Tantric The Vajrayana, which is the diamond path, is the Hermetic. So within each lineage, within each teachings, you have those three. So if you get those under your belt and you just understand them at a very, you don't have to become a master in these. You can touch them, learn a little bit about them, learn how to use your mind correctly, keep up that, that beauty. It's the teenage mind. It's the essence of being flexible, open-minded, and then you need to establish your emotional body, which is like for me is like coming from love, and holding space, and then the Hermetic for me is that childhood innocence, that ability to say, I'm going to turn this stone into gold. Oh, look, I'm a child. It is. They use their imagination and it becomes whatever they want it to be. And we lose that sacred gift.
Yeah. And it also teaches the children that they are the master of their universe, or not a master, but
at a subtle level,
a creative,
exactly.
Power.
You keep them divergent thinkers. I can't remember the exact percentages, but a child at kinder is like, they're like 80% of class are divergent thinkers, where they can take like a pencil and it has like 108 uses for it. But by the time they finish elementary school, it's just a pencil, so we stop thinking outside the box. And this is a part of the problem of our education system at the moment, which is why I also chose to homeschool my 4 children, which was also a big part of my journey as well to this work. So,
and did you add? So you did add some of these teachings to?
I stopped trying to ram it down their throats and just started to live it. And then
good. Yes, perfect. Perfect.
That, like, how do
that message is walk your talk rather than talk your talk is for anybody in all situations. It's perfect. Yeah.
I learned that lesson. It's right, kids, start meditating. Why can't you, I tortured them, and myself until I realized that I was pushing them the other way. So, I was doing more harm than good. So when I just stopped focusing on out there and started really just focusing on me, big shifts occur then. You just need to live in your integrity and your virtue, and children raise just fine. Just leave them alone.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Leave them alone.
Not to say that there isn't, some fallout from time to time.
There's plenty of that. But that's your own wounding. There's children are the greatest teachers. They're the greatest openers up of the core wounds that we have within us. And there's so much pain within us, especially when the child is so vibrant and loud and exuberant. And, Beck and I, we would have been reprimanded for that type of activity, so we have to learn how to guide them correctly without yelling and shouting, which is I'm still working on. I'm not no, but no, so I also really so for me, I really enjoyed learning those 3 major traditions. And then I stumbled across I started work after my trip to Peru. There was a newfound level of my courage. I was like ready to break through some more self-limitations. I borrowed some money from a very, very nice friend, and I was like, right, I'm going to invest in myself. So I borrowed 5 grand. She was I called up my friend and said, can I borrow 5 grand? And she was like, yes, which was huge for me. I mean, this was like, so like
just asking.
Just asking. And luckily I have a friend in a position where she said yes. Literally 2 days later, money in my account. And I was like, right. And I went in and I just started learning about sound healing. I studied something called biofield tuning, which is where you take tuning forks into the etheric body of the body. And I started to tap into something that was good for me. And I met a particular person that I still travel with today. She got me into a system called the Gene Keys and human design. That's a system that I probably fall on now the most.
Yeah.
It's been a real game changer for me and my growth, exponential growth since 2020. And then fell into painting again, like tapping into my childhood passions and reawakening something within me.
I
Yeah.
didn't know you were a painter as a child.
Well,
Oh,
like any kid. I mean, what kid doesn't like picking up
me,
a
me.
oh,
Nothing.
I don't
No
know.
no creative instinct whatsoever.
Oh,
So
I don't believe
yeah,
that, Kat. I
no,
don't.
no. The only thing I could ever draw was a little palm tree and a cat cartoon. And
Well, that's why you've got to come to my class.
I know, and we will talk about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just to uh, applaud, I guess, or support the Gene Keys. The Gene Keys, and this is not an advertisement for it. I just want to say that if you're on this path and don't have a system, that the Gene Keys can be very valuable because it brings a level of minute attention or awareness to things that might be going on within you that you haven't noticed or recognized. It gives you kind of a myopic
Or micro, macro.
micro,
Yeah.
anyway, it can be a useful tool, a
Yeah.
temporary useful tool. Anyway.
Well, the thing is for me, you know, the Gene Keys was and human design. Well, human design is the original, you know, if you think about it really.
Yeah.
What I love about it, because it mirrored me, you know, it was about taking the most ancient protocol systems by many different civilizations that have been cultivating this wisdom for thousands of years. And then one day, someone heard a voice and said, can you please, it's now time, the time has come for us to merge.
Yes.
And as humanity, you know, we're geniuses. And you know, and I mean, my children are the merging of two cultures. You know, I'm Indian, well, three cultures, you know, and we've lived in Australia and now we live in France and we were born in England. This is you know, and my children are more, I get commented on them all the time, but it's nothing to do with me. It's just they're well traveled. They have access to different ways of thinking and living, and in the taste they try different cuisine, that they are a merging of culture. And that for me is what human design is. It's finally the genius of humanity working together in harmony. And that's why it has been so rich for me, because that's what exactly, I mean, that's what I've been looking for. How do I combine all this wisdom into one container, so I don't have to go everywhere, you know, like, as much as that's fun, I mean, it's fun, you know, but yeah,
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Anything else on that point, or anything I missed? Because I want to ask.
I mean, in terms of the system, just being creative, this is something new for, like, really the exploration into creativity has been a big shift in my consciousness as well, like devoting creating alternative ways to meditate. You know, the current meditation system is very it's very off-putting for the average ordinary person. You know, the thought of someone having to sit still for hours of time, it feels unattainable. And I understand that. I mean, I couldn't commit to a meditation practice for years. And one day I sat down and started to draw, and I committed to this practice every day. And from that, something bigger came through me. And I feel like it's a more of a feminine transmission, you know, using it's Sufis, you know, I mean, they spin, you know, like, you know, Worthington, you know, there's something more, and it is, you know, the Sufi tradition, the Islamic tradition, you know, it's quite more feminine in its nature, really, and with the poetry of Rumi, and it's just tapping into all other ways to get up the mountain. And I think art and dance and singing opens up a whole new option for people that can't or don't feel in
Yeah, I would say what I was seeing is that, you know, meditation is kind of, you're going up the mountain to meet God. And in these exercises, you're bringing God into.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Into math. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so whatever route you choose, both will have to come together, I think, at some point, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you, I'm a big proponent of meditation, because learning to sit in stillness and silence is hugely important, but both working together. And it just seems to me like this part of your life where creativity is coming through and you wanting to express and teach it, which we'll talk about in this just a sec, is because you've had all these 8 or 9 years of just pedal to the metal, working on yourself, focusing, detaching, killing little bits of ego over here, over there, whatever, you know, and you've whittled it down enough so that now there comes a point when you move into the creative expression mode, and then that creative energy pokes you a little bit more, gets down into the deep, dark crevices. But so that you're not so focused all the time, but now you can have a little bit of fun. Yeah. I don't know if that resonates, but
yeah, it does. But, you know, there's always this danger with meditation in terms of mystifying, you know, like it just, you can meditate while washing the dishes.
Yes,
you can
of course.
You know,
yeah. I guess you have to define what you mean by, or defining what type of meditation. Like, are you doing Kriya yoga, or are you doing so? Yeah, I totally agree with you 100%. You're eventually, life will be a walking meditation.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm still working on that.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah. And in moments I mean, it's called a practice, right? You're practicing for the moment when life suddenly throws you a challenge, and rather than like launching into, you know, chaos, you can actually go, okay, I'm gonna breathe.
Okay.
And I'm going to do something different. You know, it's that pausing, it's allowing enough space to actually make a conscious decision about how you're going to respond to life.
So a living and walking meditation is just living or resting in space, in being, space, stillness, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah.
So what else do you want to tell us? Do you want to tell us about your creative expression now?
Sure. I mean, you know, it was something that so I created myself a meditation practice. I say, look, something came through me. I too heard a voice. I mean, I can speak.
What did you hear? Oh, do tell.
Well, it kind of happened in Peru. It was like, just look for patterns. That's what I was told. And I was just lying there, you know, and it was just like, and I never really understood what it meant. But as I was lying there, my scarf was like just rolled up sitting on my table, and I was looking at it and I was like, oh look, it looks like a little dog or something. And then I looked over at the wood, and then, you know, in the markings in the wood, I was like, oh look, there's a face. So I started to see beauty in what seemed like nothing. I just started to see, well, you know, what does a cloud look? Oh look, it looks like a rabbit. Or, you know, I just started having a lot of fun with just looking for beauty in something that was just a chaos, you know, and
or even just seeing more in something than its first appearance.
Yeah, like using to just use my imagination and play, you know. And I started committing to a drawing practice in 2020. I devoted every day, without fail, I drew a picture. I started just by copying someone else's work. I had a beautiful like an animal card deck. And they were very easy pictures to copy. So every day I drew one, and I started to work with a deck of cards, and I used to read them and interpret them and start, interweaving them with the gene keys and human design. And I started to get insights, and I used to be able, and I noticed that I could tune into the energy for that day. Everything always seemed to flow better when I started this devotional practice. And then on and off, I would start scribbling on a page, and then I would invite myself to turn a scribble into something beautiful.
Yeah.
So it just took off. And before I knew it, I was drawing like I could see dragons, and I just went through this process. And then I started to share my pictures. I kind of plucked up the courage to actually share, like, who am I, to show to. So, and I got a lot of, people really seemed to just enjoy, they just smiled when they saw my work. And because no, I'm not Leonardo, and I can just, but they just seem to bring joy to people. Yeah. And then I had this invitation by a good friend of mine, who's a part of the Gene Keys community, an astrologer, and she asked me to put together she was running like a ceremony, and invited me to create something. And then in that moment, when I was invited to actually prepare something, I realized that I had something to share, but my ego actually was like, oh no, don't share it, this is yours. And then I was like, oh, you naughty boys, how dare I was like, I see you. So
I love it. Yeah. And in that moment, folks, there was no identification with that thought. Just where before that, you became that thought, you acted on it. But here was a prime example of being separated from thought. It's great.
Yeah. And then at that point, I mean, if as a Gene Keys human design, I am what is known as a 6-2, and this is, I'm here to teach and be a role model. And I realized that this,
as well as being a projector, which needs an invitation for something.
Yes,
right?
Yes. Things to flow better. Yes, exactly. Something I'm still learning about. So anyway, I realized that I was actually here to share it. And then as I started to actually contemplate the process, I just started to get insights of like, whoa, what is, like, I got really like, this is something, because I don't know if anyone has ever watched the movie The Karate Kid. It's a little cult classic, and I liked it. Anyway, there's a scene in this movie where there's a young boy and he wants to learn karate. Okay, so he happens to meet this like really cool, it looks like Yoda, he's like a little monster kind of thing. And, the teacher's like, yeah, sure, no problem. I'll teach you karate. So this kid turns up at his house every day, and the guy's like, right, you can go out and paint my fence. And he's like, okay. So, but the painting is very specific. The painting is like this, and then like this. And then it's like, can you wax my car? So he's like rubbing it, and he's like, no. Wax on, wax off. So after about, a month or something of being tortured, this kid is just like, that's it. I'm just, I came here for karate and you're not teaching me. And then all of a sudden the teacher starts to do some, I don't know what the word is, some sparring, I think is the correct word. And then he said, wax on. And the child had built a muscle memory to do this. And then he said, paint or whatever the word, because he gave him special keynotes, to remember. So then he was able to block so with just through the act of a simple daily task, this child had learned karate, but completely it was going through the subconscious. And what I have intuited with this particular art process that was shared with me was that when you scribble on a page, you're looking at chaos. Okay. And when you're in chaos, it's very confronting, it's overwhelming, people tend to go into panic.
I can feel that, just you saying that to me, and my level of drawing, or my actual fear of drawing. I'm feeling it. Yeah.
But if you were just to allow this inner being, this innocence to return to you, you know, a little kid does not analyze, you know, a young child does not go into panic when you give them a crayon. They just draw for the
Wow.
sheer pleasure of it. And what you're doing is you're tapping it back into that wisdom, that innate wisdom that you were born with before you started to compare yourself, before you told that it wasn't good, you know, before you just stopped worrying about something. So the process is about moving through back to our innocence, you know, and innovating through chaos. And then one day when life presents you with chaos, you will have trained a muscle just through the act of just drawing and play. And one day you'll face a situation and you'll take a deep breath and you will run to it, and you will be able to, you know, to innovate. And
Wow. Yeah, that's
and this has been my experience with it, you know, my ability to cope more and more with 4 kids. I'm also a chef now at a local biodynamic farm. I cook for 100 people. I had no
told you,
experience.
folks, she does everything.
I just knew I could do it, you know, because I can breathe through chaos. I mean, this happens to be this is a gene key that is sits in my personal profile, so it's a code within me that I think I'm here to share with others.
And what gene key is that?
The third gene key. Yeah.
Third or 30? Third. 30? Third. Yeah.
Number 3. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that makes total sense. It's also a prominent number in your soul contract, if I recall.
I think so.
Lots of 3s. Although just veering off on another thing, just sharing with you, even though they're in your karmic condition, usually your karma is really what you're here to, is your dharma. And the 3 is all about artistic expression, vocal expressing yourself. So that fits nicely.
Yeah, so I take people through that process and I just leave them to enjoy just that, like an hour to themselves of just being, you know, in that space of creativity. But then meanwhile, I'll do like a biofield tuning. So you know, my life's work, my personality is about equilibrium and harmony. So I will go in and check the field and just balance anything that's out of whack within the collective field. So everyone kind of gets like a sound bath, you know, all tuned up and rested, you know, tuning into their inner child. Yeah. So.
And from what I hear, so you did like a test run for these people, and the reaction was they loved it, right?
Yeah. And I've been actually doing it at home as well. I took a mother and daughter through the process as well. They'd been having some like trouble in their relationship, so I was like trying to harmonize the relationships. I've done it with my children when they've had and my children enjoy it. My kids now draw like this. They go, look, Mom, I did a scribble. And then my son loves to see. So it's kind of spilling over. And people that are nervous about drawing.
I know you have me very intrigued. So just tell us, like, if someone's interested. And by the way, Eve has done biofield tuning. Is that correct? On me. Highly recommend her. She also did a drawing for me and a little message, which was spot on, absolutely beautiful. And then I just want to go back to your drawings while I'm remembering. On Facebook, I've seen a couple of your drawings, and your writings were so beautiful, but I've always been meaning to ask you this. In your drawings, you have this like a similar little like amoeba shaped image with a little face. Is that image that seems to be in all your drawings? What is that have a special meaning to you? I mean, it's adorable, but it's an odd, sweet, funny, and it just makes you smile. But where is that coming from? Like, what does it mean to you? I don't know.
Just the face. Each face is similar. Is that what you mean?
Each face is similar, but you draw this little being like a little ghost, kind of like. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I'm not sure. Well, what I do on each being is I put 3 little dots like here. That's all I don't know. And my daughter has 3 little
Ah,
moles.
okay.
And
Okay.
there's something so fairy-like about her. So I'm kind of bringing in the cosmic
Okay.
wisdom.
So they're not really like when you look at this being, it doesn't look like a being, arms and legs kind of thing. It's a non-shaped little being.
Well, I can
Yeah,
share.
sure, please, please, please.
I can, we
Maybe I'm
can,
not remembering, but I know the face is so sweet. They're so cute.
let me, maybe if I pull up some,
Yeah.
you can tell me what you mean. Hang on, if I do it. Can you give me access to share? I can put some little pictures
Oh,
up.
how do I do that? Oh dear God.
I
Now we're
don't know.
gonna
Oh,
have
don't worry, don't worry. I can direct people to my page after. I don't know how to do it. Like sharing a
yeah,
like.
yeah. Well, I'm gonna figure it out here. Chat
Okay.
and make host. I'll just make you a host and then you can
Yeah, I
share.
think that's it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Well, okay, I'm gonna change host. I don't really want to change host, but you can change me back, right? Do you know how to do that? Okay, we're not gonna do that. Never mind.
Never mind. Look, because the thing is that the scribble becomes the image. I make the image like the being, so there's no, you don't require, these amazing art skills to have things.
Right. You're drawing the essence.
Yeah.
Yeah, not a being.
No.
Okay, I get it now.
I'm
Okay.
just turning, I'm just trying to turn what appears to be chaos in a page into something delightful and beautiful. So I'm innovating from nothing.
Yeah. They're charming, they're sweet, they will make you smile. So I just wanted to share that.
Yeah. And there's something really rewarding about enjoying your own artwork. Like if you're drawing for someone else, you lose some of the flow, or if you're trying to do it for self-validation, and I've realized that with some of my paintings, when you can so get into this trap of like, oh well, I got to draw something, I've got to impress my audience now, and I can't, and then I actually cut off the connection, and I made it about someone else. And because the ego always finds a little, back gate.
Find the way to stop that flow. We can't have any. So if people are interested, tell us, I think they're on Sundays, or tell us where.
So I've just been invited into a beautiful online platform. It's like a yoga community. Lots of different types of teachings available. There's like a resident astrologer, there's Kundalini yoga, mantras, going through celestial, I can't remember the name.
Wasn't that the ancestral
communication, celestial communication? Okay. There's so many, there's a beautiful collection.
I'll put a link in the description.
Yeah. And I was invited to be a part of that team. So now I get to just share something that lifts me up and lifts up people in my lives, and see if anyone will benefit from it. And that would be wonderful.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
And you do biofield tuning. You still do you just do that for family members, or are you open to other people?
Yeah, I do the biofield tuning as well. And I'm kind of still working out the best way to take someone through, there's different ways, because I'm exploring lots of different ways that I can, what relaxes someone, because even just lying down, and meditate, even that can be so confronting to people, and taking them through a draw, through their own creative process while I tune them, because, we get the mind out of the way, sometimes that mind, that's a block for me. I can't get into I can't meet their trauma, because the mind tends to intellectualize everything. So if I can put someone into a really relaxed state through creativity, I can go find their inner child, and that's the one I kind of want to make friends with, the one that's kind of, it's the best way to describe biofield is like a soul retrieval, a sonic soul retrieval, because somewhere, if you have problems if you have like a little bit of conflict in your life, there's just a wound there. It's just a wound where there's a small part of you that is still kind of battling with a parent, with a sister or a brother, a kid at school, the mean teacher, you know. So we want to go in and find that part of yourself and just bring some attention to it. And
yeah, and just for clarity, that these little knots are being held in someone's subtle body, and you're going in there with the sonic tuning fork technology. And while it's, I would say, if it's ready, if it's meant to, it can totally heal that thing and make it go away, depending on, you know, did you have awareness of it? Or what it will do is break it open and bring it up to the top for you to go, or push it back down. So you can have, yeah, it's brilliant. You've worked on me, brilliant. It's very subtle, but it absolutely works. So just clarifying that you're working.
I mean, I've seen miracles with this modality, like, which I won't go into now, but just really profound. This is the future. I really feel that way. You know,
100%.
We, you know, we're energetic beings. Sound is frequency. We are frequent. You know, I mean, it's we're kind of at the, you know, the beginning stages of it, but it's I'm excited. I mean, we're going to look back at these times of our medical system. I mean, we're in the dark ages right now, right?
Totally in the dark.
People open, you know, like to, you know, like it's going to be an interesting ride into the future, I think.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see. We've talked, it's about an hour. So let's just ask a couple of closing questions. Anything that you want to say before I ask a couple of questions?
No, I don't think so.
Uh-oh, your face is getting red.
I think I've got everything.
I know what I wanted to just ask, so that we can make this perhaps a little bit more, not relatable, that isn't the word, but along your journey, Eve, what has been the toughest emotional challenge or self-sabotage? What has been that thing in your life that is just really, will probably be with you forever? You know, that one thing that perhaps someone else out there has the same kind of whatever, just your deepest, darkest challenge.
Relationships.
And is it a lack of trust, hating yourself? Can you get
being it's two sides for me. I'm a bit bipolar, I think, but it's either oversharing or not sharing enough, and learning to find that sweet spot of like when to speak, when not to, recognizing that, honoring the wounds, you know, when someone's yelling at me, they're wounded. When I'm yelling at them, I'm wounded, you know, and finding a way to move through life without hurting people. You know, I've got people around the world that don't want to talk to me. You know, that's shit. You know, I've upset people. You know, I don't like that.
And have you discovered? So you're yelling at people, but when you're yelling, what is screaming at you, silently screaming at you? What there must be, I'm going to call it a spell or a phrase that ego is telling you, this person really hates you, or you're such a jerk. What do you know what silent little ego thing is telling you? Or you don't feel good enough, some program, or not.
I think, yeah, it's probably just not, just being misunderstood. You know, like I've always been, I just want people to get me. You know, I might say something the wrong way. I might, there's just a lot of, I mean, it's the typical wounds, right? Guilt, shame, There's a rebellious voice inside of my head as well that kind of gets activated, that the wall goes up, or I mean, really, let's be honest, they're mummy and daddy issues.
Yeah, I was just going to say there had to have been an original event where little Eve said something or did something and someone didn't and reacted, and that shut little Eve down, thinking no one gets me. And that's been the storyline, the silent little story phrase that's been going along. No one gets me, no one gets me. And that's something that needs to be deprogrammed out, because it's every time you interact with somebody, it's playing. And then the defenses are already up. I'm using you as an example so that others can see, yeah, you can have problems in relationships and know that you don't want to share or undershare or overshare, but there's got to be a hidden phrase that you've taken on as truth. So dig deeper. Not you, but I'm saying out there, we always have to dig deeper. What is that hidden phrase that keeps silently talking to you? Anyway, so people don't get you. Okay.
Or it's just being deeply misunderstood, of my I want to fix everyone. I want to, I want to point out what's wrong a lot of the time.
Don't we all?
But that takes a lot of trust to be able to go in and correct someone when they really are going the wrong, and that takes a lot of trust. And it's very arrogant of me at times to think that I've built up that level of trust for that person to let me into their world, and just start trying to, because when someone's stuck, but it's not your place. It's not my place. I have not got the relationship, but there are people that I'm starting to realize that I do have that relationship with, and they receive me so well. And that's been healing as well. But it's taken a level of trust, a deep connection with someone where they know that I love them and I've got their back. And when you start making those relationships, especially with 4 kids, there are trust issues, when every time I yelled at them, I broke the trust. A mother breaks the trust when she yells at her kid, because you're God to them, and then they're like,
oh, God is vengeful. I better fear God.
When she's triggered, she's freaking she is. That's the thing. And I'm now doing a lot of work to rebuild that trust, so that as my children move through the teenage years, I might have a level of stability that I can hold space for them and give them that wisdom and compassion that they need. And that I might be the privileged one that they come to when they're struggling in their life. That would be good.
I think I have no doubt that will happen. Okay, so along this journey of discovering yourself, what have you discovered is like that you're so maybe proud of, or like you just recognize, I have discovered my truest, deepest asset or best quality is, I mean, I could name a few, but it's always wonderful to discover something within yourself and you feel a sense of pride. I guess that's a good word. I don't know what other.
It's funny. I was just contemplating the 3rd gene key before our call, and something that really stood out to me is that life is, in order for life to thrive and grow, we need to cooperate. And I think I am someone that loves to cooperate with people. I don't want to compromise. I will stand my ground, but cooperation is we're not selfish. If we were selfish, we wouldn't have even been born. Our cells work together, in our mother's wombs, and through that cooperation, life is formed. And I love working with people. I love being with people. I love playing with people. And I'm a good team player.
That's
Yeah.
a beautiful word, cooperation. And that truly fits with how I see you, and how I think I mentioned that yesterday, is you just, um, Eve is so open and receiving. So that fits right in with cooperation. You're open and receiving of others without, being a wet blanket or whatever you call it, doormat. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
I'm glad you recognize that, and it's good. It's good. It's good to just have that pillar within yourself that you can fall back on. That is kind of like your own personal city.
mm,
Cooperation. What a beautiful, that just came to me. Oh, that's
mm,
just a beautiful thought, that we create our own citic frequencies that we fall back on
mm,
and
mm,
into.
mm.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, any final words of wisdom or life motto or philosophy that you live by, that you others might find helpful, or just some final words, I guess. I think we're coming to the end.
I mean, there's so many really. I mean, the biggest thing for me is enjoy the journey, not the destination. I'm really working on that, stop looking, that present moment. I mean, the amount, it's been battered around for 2000 years, but to really embody that and just enjoy the journey and let go of any expectations, and move towards your shadows, because
Yeah.
you look down, that's what I learned from from Peru. When you face those shadows, underneath there really is an angel, behind every veil. I really believe that, and it will be an honor to one day embody that in every breath that I take, so that's my greatest aspiration. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Oh, I think we did a good job, don't you? Anyway, your family's probably like, come on, mom.
No, they're well trained. They're well trained. They're well trained.
All right. So any final words? I will put links to your people to find you to do that creative artwork, which is, yeah, I'm so interested in that. You may have to just work with me personally. Anyway, yeah, this was lovely. It was lovely hearing a little bit more about your story. Yeah, really fascinating. And I really appreciate you. I
Oh,
appreciate you for being my first guest. I don't think you were a victim.
no, I did not feel like a victim. Well done.
All right. Well, thank you, and have a wonderful rest of your day. And I guess that's it. Until next time, I'm going to end this. Does it end us? I think it does. So, Eve, I will talk to you soon. Thank you so much. Bye.